Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Come on in. I'm going to get started in just a second. I just want to let some folks know that we are here and it is Monday morning and we're ready to get started. So let me just finish getting this out. There we go. All right. Let's see. Just about have it. There we go. Good morning, chain breakers. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday, January the 13th, 2019. This is going to be a fantastic day because that's the way I choose for my day to be. Hi, I'm Brad Smith. I am your host for Chain Breakers 365 and the creator of hashtag Uplift and Rise. I want to welcome you here today. We've been working on a little bit of a series all on the subject of love. And man, I tell you what, I, for one, love this group. I love the people that are jumping on here in the lives in the morning, ready to be part of this, ready to dig in. Nat Banks, good morning. Mike Mills, good morning, my friend. Terry LaPierre, good to see you. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more joining in. There are several up here I can see, but I just can't tell who they are. If you would, drop me a word, say good morning to me. I'll say good morning to you. If also, my friends, do us the best thing in the world you possibly can do and share this out. Let the word get out so others can join in and participate in the same way. Hey, Randy Davis, glad you jumped in here. Leanne Rhinesmith, I'm glad you're here this morning. Today, I'm going to talk about a book that came out several years ago. It was a book by a guy by the name of Gary Chapman. Gary wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages. You know, this book resonated probably more with me on the subject of love than anything else I've ever read about relationships. It really kind of explained an awful lot to me. And I'm not reading from the book today. I'm not going to try to tell you what he said. I would encourage you, however, to go out and get the book. But I am going to kind of recap my perspective on this and tell you a little bit about what those 5 love languages are. So according to Gary, there are 5 love languages, and they are words of affirmation. And if you're taking notes, please write this in the comments, somebody. Words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And you see, we all tend to communicate love, and we want to receive love in one of those love languages. It is very, very important for you to know what the love language is of your partner. And you can't necessarily determine what that love language is based upon the way they communicate with you. Because the way they communicate is not necessarily the way they want to receive love. Thanks, Leanne. I really appreciate you writing some of these down. So let's talk about those and break down a little bit of those and talk about what they are. The first one, like I said, is acts of service. Sometimes it is in the little things. It is in the willingness to do things for other people, in doing things for your significant other. Maybe it's just picking up. Maybe it's fixing food that they necessarily like. Maybe it's doing laundry for them. It can be simple things. Doing something to help out or in consideration of the other person. That is expressing the language of love through acts of service. The second one we talked about is words of affirmation. Actually, I had those backwards. Words of affirmation, and the order is not important. But words of affirmation, that's a big one to a lot of people. There are a lot of people, and you probably have seen this in your children, is in words of affirmation. They need words of affirmation. The ones that are always trying to perform for you, the ones that are always trying to get your attention, the ones that are always trying to get your acknowledgement, they Their love language that they want to receive love in is in words of affirmation. They want to know and hear from you how much you mean to them, how good they are at things, how great of an impact they've made, how wonderful this artwork is, or their performance is, or what a great student they are, or how well they cleaned up the room, or whatever they're doing. They want that positive feedback. They want to know that they're pretty, that they're attractive, that they're, whatever it is, they want that confirmation or that affirmation that they're important to you, right? That you acknowledge them, that what they're doing is a good thing. By the way, you might receive and you might be willing to give love in multiple ways. There isn't only necessarily one that you communicate in or that you want to receive in. Another one is receiving of gifts. Sometimes it's the little thing. It's the flowers. It's the little notes, right? Or a card, or it's the receiving of something physical, the receiving of something tangible. That it's that gift that where somebody went out of their way to do something special for you and giving you of something. It is the thoughtful gift. It's the timely gift. It's the I'm here for you note, right? It's the notes in your kid's lunchbox, right? Those are the gifts that receiving of gifts that's important to them. Sometimes, and this is important to a lot of people, one of the love languages also is in quality time. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be anything magnanimous. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It doesn't have to be grand gestures. It's just being willing to be with somebody, to spend time with them, to share the space with them. Sometimes it doesn't even necessarily have to be conversation that goes on. It might be going to a movie together, or sitting and watching the TV together, or sometimes it's just being in the same room, reading a book. It doesn't necessarily have to mean communication. It's that time that you spend, the connection that you have with somebody when you are together. But it is in that willingness to spend time with them, to do things, to spend quality time. Maybe it's the one-on-one time. If you're a family with a lot of children, it's time. If you have a child that wants quality time, they want that one-on-one time. They want that time spent specifically with and for them. That's quality time for them. The last one is in physical touch. Now, some people are kinesthetic people. I am one of those. Just a very kinesthetic person. Maybe it's just holding hands. Maybe it's an arm around. Maybe it's walking by and just putting a hand on your shoulder. Yes, it can be sex, but it does not have to be sex. It's that physical touch, that physical connection is also an expression of gift of touch, right? Physical touch. So what's important to know when you're connecting with people is not necessarily is expressing your affection to them through one or more of those 5 love languages. But if you've ever heard of couples that are having difficulty, frequently you'll hear, "You never let me know that you love me." What are you talking about? I do that all the time, right? There's an example where one person's expressing of their love through a particular love language, and the receiving of a person of a different love language is like speaking French and Spanish, right? They're not in the same wavelength. They're not talking the same language. The expression of one person's love language and the receiving from another person did not connect because they didn't get it. So it's important not only to know what your love language is, let your partner know what that love language is for you, but also it's in knowing what you most express it in the way you want to receive it. right? So take a good solid look at your partner and take a good solid look at yourself. One, think about it from your self perspective, and think about what is most important to you. What do you most want from a partner? Is it the words of affirmation? Is it in the small gifts? Is it in the quality time? Right? Is it in physical touch? Is it in gifts of service? What is important to you? What do you want to receive from your partner? And here's the other part. You need to let them know. Because if they don't know how to express it to you, then they are not going to talk in the way that you need to receive love. But it's important for you to not only know how to receive it, it's important for you to know how to give it to them. By understanding what their language is, and this is difficult sometimes to understand what your own language is, but maybe sometimes we need to try different things. We need to try something from each love language and watch the way our partner responds. It is in acknowledging the way your partner responds to those different love languages that you will find out what's important to them, right? Sometimes through those of us who've been around the block a few times, we get it. We know what those love languages are. Sometimes we need to think back to our childhood and what we felt was missing from our relationships with our parents. That will very quickly tell you what your love language is. And when they did something for you, what connected the most. So you see, those things out of the memories of our childhood, those were the resonating things that hung around in our memory. Those resonating memories are what's communicated the loudest in your mind and in your psyche. You've held it inside. My guess is your love language is buried in those. So if you don't know, take a look at your memories. Take a look at your childhood. What meant the most to you? What memories are you hanging on to and why? Because that is your love language. What you'll find, though, many times is the way you express it and the way you want to receive it is not the same. You may find that you pattern yourself after a parent or a grandparent or somebody significant in your life, that you knew that love language of theirs and you patterned yourself after them. But it didn't necessarily mean that's the way you needed to receive it. Acknowledge what your love language is and make sure that's being expressed so that when your spouse or when your partner sees you doing that, they know that you are trying to communicate your love language to them. Now, just because that's your love language and just because you've expressed it does not mean they received it, right? It's good to know, for them to know that you're trying, but trying and doing are two different things. You need to learn your partner's language and communicate to your partner the way they best receive it. My friends, if you don't have that book, if you haven't read that book, go out and get that book. It is a fantastic book on relationships. Relationships with our friends, relationships with our children, relationships with our partners. Every one of us has our own language. Language in which we receive and language in which we express. Get to know yours and get to know your partners or whoever it is in your room you're trying to communicate with. You may find that if you have a family of 4, that every single person expresses in a different way and every single person receives in a different way, even though you're in the same family. It's not unusual. Okay? Take that in today, my friends. This probably is going to wrap up our series on love, and we'll get into a few things tomorrow. I've already been hit with several ideas of where we can take things, but I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for being part of Chainbreakers 365 Live. We're here every single Monday through Friday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you have trouble finding us live, you can always catch us in replay, and if you have trouble doing that, you can go to my YouTube channel, Chainbreakers 365, or you can go to chainbreakers365.com where you can find them there as well. Billy, you're asking what that book is. It's called The 5 Love Languages it's by a guy by the name of Gary Chapman. You can find it on Amazon. It's there. I guess that's easier than finding a lot of bookstores nowadays. A few people jumped in late. Terry, I think I said hello. Yes, snuggling is physical touch. Jennifer, glad you joined us in. Billy, you may be a first-time viewer. I don't know. I've never seen your name before, but welcome. Midge, glad you're here this morning too. My friends, thank you. I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow right here for Chainbreakers 365 Live. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye now. Have an awesome day, my friends.